So we welcome to session 5 of cohort 9A, I do believe, Empathy Circle Training. And we are recording this for publicity and learning and insight. And so that means we have to be extremely serious. No more funny sounds, Herbert. Just kidding. And really want to welcome you all back. And today, we really have a basic intention to continue the study of empathy circles, as a method and a tool and a practice for building a culture of empathy, a worldwide culture of empathy. And our intention this week is to harvest and gather our experience in the training and to learn from that and learn from each other and our insights and the jewels and gems that we're walking away with. And also to think about the future, how we want to continue practicing, but also to, provide thoughts and feedback on this training to help this exact training grow and evolve. So we will be dividing into small groups a little bit and then come back and then harvest as a whole group, no time together today. And what we'd like to do is just begin with check-ins. And as usual, we want to keep these pretty short, around 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds. And I will time. There's my trusty timer. And the question around check-ins is just for a moment, if you just want to check in with yourself right now and consider what you might want to share. In just a brief moment, particularly what questions are still remaining for you. We do want to hear those around facilitating empathy circles, but also comments or anything from the last session. Or you might want to mention something about your buddy call, or maybe something about facilitating over the last week or so. Empathy circle, maybe a moment or a learning that you had. So anything you'd like to share within 30 seconds that you feel has a value for the group, questions, comments, insights. And so I'll call on people throughout the process, and we'll just do that check-in, and then we'll address a little feedback and any questions. We'll respond to those, and then we'll move into the breakout sessions. So on my screen, let's see. Anish, hi there. You're first on my screen. Just 30 or 40 seconds. Anything alive for you with empathy circles, learnings, or anything?
Yeah, first of all, I wasn't expecting to go first, so there's a bit of shock in me. Having come back to the last two sessions, what I'm realizing is how even with all the understanding, just coming back to basics and practice, and that's what I really enjoy about these circles of just keep coming back and just picking up on my skills, and even things that I know. To practice it with a different set of group of people is just fascinating stuff. So it kind of explains how Bill, Lou, and Edwin have been doing it for years, and it's about sharpening the saw and just getting better at it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Cool. Lynette, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I've had an amazing week. In the last two circles that I've been part of, or last two cohorts that I've been part of, I've made some amazing connections, and so in those connections, we're now collaborating and doing projects, and I've even taken this to my city councilor, and we have him interested. So it's really cool. We'll probably be doing a little blurb in front of the whole city council, and getting this going in conjunction with another project I'm working on. So it's really cool.
Oh, wonderful, Lynette. That's a big celebration. Graham, go ahead.
Thanks, Tim. Well, I'm happy to be here. I didn't actually have an empathy buddy session related to this group, but there's somebody who I connect with, and I'm also negotiating with an ex, all to do with the empathic process, and those things are actually going very well. About what I want to achieve in the remaining session and perhaps subsequent sessions of the facilitator training is really just to develop some more confidence, develop some more practice, and slow down, essentially. Something which I can't really talk
That's about time there, Graham. Just finish your thought there. That's about time.
Then that's enough. Thank you.
Okay, great.
To be here. Great.
Confidence and practice. Thank you. Elsa Marie.
Hi, everyone. Good evening from Mumbai. So this past week, I haven't had the time for the buddy session. It's been International Women's Day and I've been swamped with a lot of events. But the Empathy Circle on last Friday was great. And I find myself using the skills I've learned over here in my day-to-day, relationships with people. So I think it's been hugely helpful. And like Graham said, the more practice we continue to have, the better we will be at facilitating these circles. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsa Marie. And Herbert.
Yeah, in the last empathy circle, we tried conflict resolution. So we did much more than active listening. Last time it didn't went too well because we had a very unbalanced share of talking. So one of us was talking way too much and the others less. And it's difficult to weigh the balance between the wish to help and unprofessional therapy, something like that. So yeah, we learned something, and we have time to make it better next time.
Right. Thank you, Herbert. Celine.
Hello, everybody. I have a celebration to share. After last class, I did 2 empathy circles in the context of a class on something like conversations across differences or something, and it was a NVC class. And they loved it. Everybody loved it. They want more. And then another person who was in one of my empathy circles has let me know how she's integrated the skills in her everyday life and conversations. So I'm feeling enthused and ready to keep going. Thank you.
Wonderful, Celine. Hey there, Linda. Go ahead.
I think that was me, was it? So yep. Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, so I'm just reflecting on the last community circle, which I run every week. There are a few of us there who work with young people in the same organisation, actually. And what we did is we had a go at empathy circle with cameras off, because young people quite often come to a Zoom, they don't want their cameras on. And surprised, I thought it wasn't going to work at all, but actually it worked really quite well. And then we tried it a little bit with just doing chat. That didn't work so well. But it was quite surprising that it worked well with cameras off. So that's just a little thing that I'm bringing, really.
Mm-hmm. Cool, wonderful. Cameras off and some connection there, looking at other ways to connect. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Claire. Welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you. I feel like I've had a bit of a week. It's just one of those weeks where you hit the lockdown wall. But I had a really lovely buddy call with Amy, and I really think, as with everyone I've spoken to, I'm looking forward to developing the conversations more and finding ways to use empathy for action and collaborate. And really finding this whole process has helped me give much more space for people whose opinions I maybe wouldn't initially connect with, and finding that today and digging into what it is I think. It's been a really positive process. So that's where I am today.
I know. Yeah. Thanks so much, Claire. Anatoly, greetings.
Hi. I had a great buddy call and I had an empathy circle finally. It was really great and exciting, but I did it with a friend who was facilitating the other group, and he had a really difficult circle with people who had some challenges reflecting and challenges expressing their feelings. It made me think about like how to help people with like big challenges with expressing and hearing feelings, people with special needs and so on, like how to help them participate. Like he had to not just facilitate, but like constantly like help with reflection because some people couldn't do it. So just thoughts about this.
Wonderful. Thank you for that question. And Heather, hello.
Hello. Today, actually, I had a big aha that the connection of self-care to empathy, and that I need to take care of myself so that I'm open and able to receive the messages of others and integrate them into my own life. So I definitely dusted off some cobwebs that I had from some cynicism and some critical eye. Had a really great empathy circle this week, all about magic. And tomorrow, Michelle and I get to hang out as empathy buddies. So it's a good week so far.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. Greetings, Amy. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So this week has been great. I actually had my mother visit for a couple days, and I actually did a bit of an empathy circle with her, which was which was interesting, just between she and I, which built some empathy between each other, and got to spend International Women's Day with my mom, which was lovely. And then on that same day, I actually got to talk to Claire while my mom was visiting, and took it from the car. But it was wonderful to chat with Claire as I was out and about, because I've been meaning to connect with her, and she was my empathy buddy this week. So that was pretty awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Amy. Renee, go ahead. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Hi, everybody. I had a great empathy buddy call, like I've had every week. Always something different, always some new growth. I want to have empathy buddies with everybody here. I'm mourning that today is week 5, and this group as it will be complete. And I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to reconnecting at some other point. I've just been loving this whole process. Each time we go into the breakout rooms and get feedback, I've really enjoyed all the feedback, and I've integrated it, and I've been out there on my own doing this without any feedback. So it's been amazing to actually get loving feedback. My circles just continue to improve with that. So thanks for providing this opportunity.
Super, Renee. Thank you so much. Let's see, Russia, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, so I did organize an empathy circle this week. That happened. It went quite well. Empathy circle, it's a part of a process called empathic intuition, for which I'm training. So that is what I kind of practice. So it went really well. And then I also had an amazing buddy call with Anatoly. It was really amazing because, 2 different cultures, and we were just discussing each other's cultures and getting to know how we relate to each other. It was really an amazing call. Other than that, it has been quite a difficult week for me physically, because I'm not really well. I've been having this vertigo issue, kind of dizziness and stuff. So I visited a doctor today, and I just got back like a couple of hours ago. So I'm hoping I'll be able to do well today and just be present as much as I'd love to. So yeah.
You are too. We encourage you to take wonderful care of yourself at your own pace, for sure. Okay, good. Let's see. I think Sam is here. I don't see her on the screen. Elsa Marie, you spoke already, right? You came back in, yeah.
Yes, this one is there on the screen.
Okay. I'm missing. Anyway,
Your profile picture is up.
Oh, okay. On my screen, not. Maybe my
Okay.
Zoom feed is different. But Ibtisam, are you there? Would you like to check in for 30 seconds?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I've just arrived. I did send my apologies. I don't know if you got the message that I'm going to join in late. I'm still trying to just arrive at this place. I'm sorry. So literally just need to arrive.
Absolutely. Yes, please do. Take your time. And we're going to be doing the same format today. We'll be responding to a few questions for a few minutes right now, and then we'll be moving into smaller groups. And once again, the intention today is really to harvest and honor our learnings and help the training itself grow, and then look forward to next steps for each of us. Now, for the next 6-7 minutes, we do have a little bit of time to respond to some of the questions that came up. We didn't see any feedback from the feedback form from last week, but there were a few questions that came up just now. And I'd like to invite the trainers to comment on those. Number one, I would like to begin by, oh wait, where, who? Somebody didn't, oh my gosh, there's some more check-ins to do. Oh my gosh. Let's hear like Michelle for sure, if you have something to say, Aaron, and let's definitely hear from you. Yes, please, Michelle, go ahead.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
I think there might be a few of us. Yeah, so it was just such a fast week. Like this whole cohort has been like really fast, and so I had a lovely like facilitation on Friday that it was just like, it just warmed my whole heart. It was just one of them where you kind of come in, the group like came together, and there was just this gorgeous energy, and it filled me up for the kind of it just really reminded me about what's so sacred or so precious about this movement. I'm really looking forward to my catch up, my empathy buddy call with Heather tomorrow. And randomly this week, like I was online late in the evening and I needed some emergency empathy. And Renee was online, and I just want to call out like the power of this community. She just like filled me up with this gorgeous like first aid empathy. And I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for this. So yeah, thank you, Renee.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Michelle, so much.
Yeah.
And Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel similar much. I guess the past month has been kind of hard for me, more so than in a long time. I think things kind of catching up, maybe that lockdown fatigue. But this has been really amazing. I think just seeing so many people taking empathy seriously and enthusiastic about it and moving it forward, and also hearing, weekly your updates on, how you're actually, implementing it has really helped me so much. And so I really, really appreciate that, as well as the circles. It's been great. And so I can, really attest to the power of it personally. So thanks.
Thank you. Cool. Now, in terms of continuing check-ins or responding to questions, Bill, Edwin, Lou, are you okay with going ahead to field some questions, or do you have any check-ins that you'd like to offer? Go ahead, any of you.
Yeah, I'd like to check in. So, yeah, I'm really happy to see everyone. I have two feelings: a little bit of sadness that this is our last session together, and my desire to like know everyone really well. But also feeling a lot of joy, connecting, seeing all of you again. This week I had a really challenging, a friend, someone close to me was really in crisis, and I really got a chance to see again how just listening to them helped them and helped them find their own way through the difficulty that they were having. And that's a really powerful thing. And then the other was participating in an empathy circle where I felt again, which I often feel this, clarifying my own thinking by being listened to. And for the first time, actually, I got the idea that maybe one way to draw some people to empathy circles might be about self-understanding. I've never thought about framing empathy circle practice as an invitation to self-understanding as opposed to understanding others or mutual understanding. And so that's something I'm going to think about, that might be a way to talk about them or to organize around them.
Thank you, Lou. Bill or Edwin? Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I have to, apologize in person. Timothy and I couldn't make our empathy buddy call, and it was partly. So, we'll have plenty of time to connect, I'm sure. I had a very sad thing happen. I'm a retired special education teacher, and one of my students, who is now 26, was homeless, and he was shot and killed. And what that brought to me here is the importance. When we had kids acting out violently, we would ask ourselves, what's the communicative intent? In other words, what are they trying to say? And when we could understand that and then relate that to them in a way that they could understand it, the violence went down. And so this is just, again, when I talk, it's important to me in this training about the culture of empathy, because if more of these sorts of listenings back and forth could be permeated throughout the country, in the world, I really believe that the violence would go down. And so it's really important. So I'm really appreciative of all the work that you're doing here. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. And Edwin.
Yeah, I'll just mention I'm kind of working at setting up the different cohorts, so a lot of the technical stuff. So we're going to be having 4 cohorts running simultaneously in the coming weeks. So it's a huge amount of organizational stuff. So my mind is all working with the gears and sort of all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's sort of the main focus right now. Totally absorbed in sort of the detail work.
Thanks, Edwin. Thanks for all that work. Thank you. And I'll just say my main celebration was a new film that was released called Words That Liberate by a French filmmaking team that came to the United States and saw the application of empathy circles and nonviolent communication training in prisons. And so it was just released. You can go to NVC Academy and see all the participants in a panel discussion. But I'm going to put that link in the chat. It's on YouTube now. Strikingly powerfully reaffirming experience of the power and healing power of empathy. Wow. So I'm just going to pop that into chat right now. And let's see.
Anish to go.
There we go. And I think everybody's gone. Yes.
Anish. I think Anish needs to go.
He went. Yeah. Yeah, first, I think. Wonderful. Wonderful. So it looks like if we want to stay right on time, we don't have a lot of time to respond to specific questions, but I want to see if we can take just 2 or 3 minutes to catch a few of those. Number one, I just want to say this. I hear the actual power of empathy buddy connections across cultures, nearby, far, everything. Can we get some hands on the empathy buddy connections? Yes. Okay. So right now, I encourage you to use chat, private chat, whatever you need to do. Use email. Look at the training list and reach out to folks. Like make a mental note right now who you're going to reach out to connect this week, next week, whenever. I just really want to encourage that right now, just to follow up and do that. The second thing is Renee put a little question in chat, just was asking about how does reflecting feelings and needs fit into this model, right? And I want to answer that very briefly as a nonviolent communication trainer. Nonviolent communication gathers the language of empathy in terms of what somebody's human experience is. So if you know some good words around feelings, you can really catch somebody and see what flavor, what sense they're feeling. And then also naming basic values, needs, human requirements, those things that animate our feelings, also helps kind of catch somebody verbally when you're giving verbal empathy or reflection. So yeah, that language is really helpful. That's available widely on the internet, the language of feelings and needs. So that's just a little question that came up. But there were a couple more, and I saw Lou. Yeah, Lou, you were taking some notes there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to say something to what Herbert said about using empathy circles for conflict resolution. I think, mutuality is one of the key attributes of empathy circle practice that is really crucial in actually whatever you're using it for. The mutuality is crucial because what happens in just kind of normal conversation is some people speak more than others. So taking time turns is really important. And then I would say for conflict resolution, there's two kind of parts to conflict resolution. One part is mutual understanding, and the other part is actions. What actions do you want to take to repair harm or to do things differently going forward? And so that consciousness just has to be kept in terms of the empathy circle, that you want to have a portion of the circle that goes on that's about people understanding each other. Because if there's conflict, there's things that they don't understand about each other. And so having people talk about the impact of what happened or what they think the other person doesn't understand and getting that reflected back, that is one component. And then moving to a second component about, so what should we do now? Given the understanding that we have, what should we do now? What actions would you like to have happen? Or what would you like to request of the other person? Or what would you like to offer the other person to help mend things or make things different going forward? So I think those are kind of the components of conflict resolution that can help guide empathy circle practice. And then I do have a comment about what Anatoly said also about challenges with expression or reflecting. So I'm curious about the challenges with expression, because expression is whatever you want it to be. And you said people having trouble expressing their feelings. Expressing their feelings is not required in an empathy circle. So however people are expressing themselves is fine. But trouble reflecting, yes, people do have trouble reflecting, and that's the role of the facilitator, is to help with that. If a person is having trouble, they're missing pieces that are important to the speaker, then you can let the speaker try to make those understood if they're being missed. But after a couple of attempts of being missed, usually the speaker is getting pretty frustrated. And that's when, as a facilitator, you want to try to say, so I think I'm hearing this, that might be being missed. Is that right? Is that what you're wanting to have understood? And hopefully you're getting it. And the speaker then feels some relief. And maybe the reflector is getting some idea of what they're missing. Does that fit, Anatoly, or what? Do you have anything you want to respond to what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wonder about the reflection part sounds good, but about expressing, sometimes people feel things, but they don't have words to express. Like they struggle to express in words what's happening inside them. So they start I think not being able to complete a sentence. Some people have a challenge with that. I guess it's not common, but it happens. And then I wonder how to help people with that.
So you could say, just reflecting what's happening. So you seem to be having strong feelings or something that's important to you that you want to say, and you're having trouble finding the words for it, but you're wanting it to be understood. And then I guess you could guess, if you have some sense of what you think they're trying to say, you could guess at it, but it should be clear that it's a guess. And I see Bo wanted to add something too.
Just a quick comment in that, just to emphasize what Lou already said about accepting wherever people are. So one of the things sometimes people feel performance anxiety, and they're kind of like emotionally wrought. And so it's not that they can't speak, but that they're feeling emotionally wrought. And so a lot of times saying, sit in silence. We're just here. This is your 5 minutes, whatever it is, just assure them, can reduce that emotional stress and then help them find their voice. I've it's not perfect, but I found that happen a lot of times. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. And also under seeing Anisha's comment in the chat about, there's actually a page there from Edwin's website around restorative empathy circles in format there based on Dominic Barter's work. Very rich and helpful. Another way to conduct the kind of more the conflict resolution side of things. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to lean into transitioning into moving into our small groups today to practice an empathy circle process to harvest what we've gained and gathered. So let's see, who's going to be introducing?
Michelle's doing that.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Edwin. So our session today is going to be on integration. So it'll be integrating your experiences and harvesting feedback about the training. And so we'd like to hear what you'll do next, what you'd like to do next with the empathy practice and training. And we'll explore what was your experience like? What worked? What didn't work? What ideas have you for improvement? And any ideas or plans that you have for next steps. So the experience, what worked, what didn't work, ideas for improvement, and plans for next steps. Yeah, and we'll post that into the chat rooms as well. So so the turns are going to be for 5 minutes, and we will it'll be for an hour and 15 minutes. So we will go to just about the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to have a 45-minute debrief, and you'll get a 10-minute warning from Edwin just before the end of the session.
Okay, thanks. So actually, I created groups of 5 this time. So Aaron and Michelle, you'll be co-facilitating that. Everybody knows the process. There's not much to facilitating. So instead of doing 4, we're doing 5. So you may want to do 4-minute turns, but you can kind of decide. And just to make sure we have the full hour and 15 minutes, or it'll be about 10 till. So we want to I'll try to get an hour and 15 minutes in for that, and give you a 10-minute update, warning. So here we go. See you in the rooms. And Lou, your group will stay here. I'll stay here with you.
Okay. Here we are.
Hi.
Hi. So, yeah. Okay, so who would like to start? Hang on, let me get my timer. So let's do 4-minute. How about 4-minute turns? Does that sound good? Okay, and the questions are in the chat, so anyone can start. Unless there's something someone wants to do before we start.
Can I just check, when we're doing it as a facilitator, so one of us would be the facilitator and then ask someone else to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to facilitate, but
Yeah,
if someone else wants to do that, you're welcome to do that.
No,
Okay.
That's great. Sorry, that was a misunderstanding.
That's all right. Yeah, no, if people want another turn facilitating that, I'd be happy to have someone else facilitate if you want to. Okay.
I was just trying to clarify what.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I can go first then.
Okay, go ahead.
Lynette, would you And
Sure.
I realize I've also not met you in a group, so it's really lovely to be in a group with you. So I've really liked the process of the trainings, actually, and the way in which it's been a journey through the importance of empathy and listening and the circle format.
So you've really enjoyed the process and the journey of what empathy circles can do for you.
And I think it's been, especially given that we are all on Zoom and we're doing this virtually, I think it's been a really fascinating experience to feel that kind of connection to people who are all over the world. Like, I mean, we've got California to India, which I think is really pretty spectacular.
Right. So I hear you saying that you enjoy the connection from all around the world with Zoom, where you wouldn't necessarily get that face to face.
And also that you feel the fact that you are doing this distantly, but you still feel like you've met people and you've connected when you've never met in person, I think is quite striking, which speaks to the power of the circles in the digital age.
So you're seeing the difference between what the power of the circles can do in connecting people around the world rather than in our face-to-face. It's that different dynamic.
Yeah, and I'm trying, in terms of applying it, I'm really trying to think about how to use the format in the kind of environments I'm working in, because I've had a lot of interest from policymakers and people who I've previously worked in. And I'm trying to decide and understand how you tailor it for example, military personnel who I think would benefit from the process, but who it's a very different format perhaps, or the topics have to be dealt with in certain ways.
Okay. So I'm hearing that you're finding a deep reflection on how you can put this into a process and take it further into, say, for example, the military, and that so that and find those different topics that you can connect with them on, so that they can get the benefit of the circles and the understanding of the actual empathy process.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm finding the power of listening, and also having seen it, of asking people to listen when you're in need of like self-empathy or just to work things through. Like, so how do you translate that into some of the dialogues we're having politically right now? And especially at the moment in Britain, we've got a lot of divisions. So I'm trying to think about what this means.
So you're seeing a whole new level to this, as well as what I'm hearing, and the different pieces to it and how they connect, and that so that you can bring it forward into, a different part of the world and the political side, more or less, in your community.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really looking forward to building collaborations with people I've met on the circles, because I think there's this shared process of learning, and there's a lot of synchronicity between people in what we're trying to do and lessons learned. And I'm very conscious of how much more I have to learn, and how much more experience I have to gain to really be able to kind of multiply the effect in the kind of spaces I'm working.
Okay. Sorry, my brain's all over the place right now with what you said. I want to just like jump in and continue the conversation. But I just heard our bell. So basically, you're just trying to format in your head, is what I'm hearing, that all these pieces coming together and where you want to take them.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Lynette.
You're welcome. Okay, Heather, would you like to hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like I said, my head is just spinning. There's just so much connection and so many places this can go. I recently had to sit down because my head was so full and do kind of like a mind map of the two projects that kind of blend together in my world right now with empathy circles and trauma informed. And so
can I reflect back?
Yes, you can.
I want to make sure I get you all. Yeah, your mind is just spinning because you're seeing all the connection points and opportunities. And specifically, to handle that, you put these mind maps together to think about your different projects and how they do connect and the connection points for the empathy with those.
Yes, exactly. And that, yeah, and just seeing how excited other people get when I mentioned this piece to it as well, and where they can look at it and take it to, you can see the gears start to go a little bit as well. It's a lot of fun.
But you're seeing the ripple effect of, when you talk about this way of being and working, and seeing the ahas and the excitement of other people and how they want to apply it. So it's been really fun for you.
It has, yes, exactly. But there's also that thing, and I mentioned it in my other training that I took on trauma informed. The more I learn, the more I realize I have to learn, right? There's more to it. There's many layers. It's like an onion being peeled back. So it's sometimes overwhelming.
Yeah. So it sounds like your excitement is also paired with the feeling of overwhelm of all that there is to learn still about this topic and how it connects to your work and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think my next steps would be to just continue having those connections, conversations, brainstorming, and then putting everything into practice when we get to that point where we can, and see where it goes.
So you want to continue to do this work and see where it goes and see where it leads and continue on that path.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I've been fully heard.
Awesome. Awesome. Edwin, will you be my listener?
Yep, listening.
Okay. My mind is also spinning. Like Lynette said, I have so many things I can totally relate to. I have a whole notebook here of I've written pages and pages and pages from every training and every empathy circle and every aha. And I really do want to spend some time to integrate all of it.
Yeah, so your mind is really spinning with ideas, and you've taken all kinds of pages of notes, and now you're sort of wanting to integrate it all, so that maybe to see what your next steps are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so internal, like what Lou was talking about, like that internal journey has been really great for me of noticing some gaps and noticing some strengths and opportunities of where I can really apply this work to my own self-care, my own introspective journey.
Yeah, so you're really seeing how you can apply this work to your self-care as well as your own internal journey. And so you're just seeing some possibilities there.
And I almost think of it like rippling out, in my relationships. I actually said to my partner last week, we were having a little bit of a trouble communicating. I said, this is what it looks and feels like to me to be fully hurt. So I kind of gave him a little bit of the container, and he was like, okay. And then he participated and it felt awesome. So I think relationship wise, I can use it there.
Yeah, so you applied it to your relationship and saying, this is what it feels like to feel fully heard, and you did it, and it worked really well. So he's seeing some excitement about that.
Yeah, I think I can use it with my kiddos, my family, larger family. And then I think it's, within my community, I work with so many social innovators where empathy is at the core and root of our work, right? And met lovely people like Lynette and Claire. It's awesome that you both were my buddies already. So I want to bring more attentive focus on empathy and integrate what I've learned into those larger communities.
So you're looking at the different communities you're in that are already empathically based communities, and you want to see how to bring this into those communities.
Yeah, exactly. And on that journey, also think about what might be missing. What are ways that there could be enhanced integration where, especially around conversations of equity and justice, how might there be opportunities for different framing or engagement around empathy?
So how to apply empathy to these topics of equity and justice, and so how to frame the questions with empathy or in an empathic way, or some not quite sure.
Yeah, trying to see what some opportunities might be for more growth in those areas specifically connected to empathy.
So in those areas of equity and justice, what opportunities are there for bringing empathy sort of practice into those environments or around those questions?
Yeah, so a lot of mine are next steps, because that's just how my brain works. It's like, how do I integrate and go? But meeting everyone has been amazing, and I definitely will stay in touch with Lynette and Claire and both of you, and a lot of other folks that I've met through this community. So it's been really lovely.
Yeah, so you found it really lovely and you want to stay in contact with us. And the way your mind works is you kind of integrate and go. You sort of like, sounds like maybe take action. You have ideas for action steps you want to take.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, then thanks. I'll speak to Lou then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the topic of the military, that I have seen that the Army handbook has empathy as one of the skills in it, so made me think of the Army. That would be if we could bring empathy circles into the military, that would be something really beneficial, I think.
Yeah, so what Claire said about the military made you think about the fact that you've seen in the military handbook that empathy is a skill that they value in the military. So you're also thinking about how might empathy circles be integrated into the military.
And all the places when the military goes to all these different environments, large part of it is just how well can they listen to the communities they're in, besides, between themselves, so I really see that it would be great to kind of promote it, in the military more consciously, do training, have them do the training, for example, and spread it there. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so you're aware that the military operates in lots of different places, lots of different cultures and lots of different circumstances. And you think a lot of their effectiveness relies on them actually being able to be empathic with the people that they are interacting with. And so you think that there could be a lot of benefit to them learning empathy circle practice and getting training, and you'd like to see that happen.
And also for the, I don't know what they call it, decommission, when you leave the military, that if there was a time where you really do a lot of empathy circle practice, listening, and then so you'd be able to take that skill to your home, to your family. There's a lot of post-traumatic stress, or a lot of issues, and I think it's really the skill of listening, in your family, being heard about whatever issues are going on with you, that it could be very healing and be a really great skill to move from that competitive battle mentality to more of a empathic, listening and integration sort of mentality would be huge.
Yeah, so in another area in the military where you think empathy circles would be really powerful would be with leaving, when soldiers leave the military and reintegrate back into regular life, having a lot of experience receiving empathy and also just understanding empathy practice, you think would be really healing and really helpful in terms of them integrating back into normal society.
Yeah, and I'm celebrating Lynette's sort of getting out there into the political realm, because like right away we had talked about Alan Alda. She wrote an email to his staff or whatever, said, hey, why don't you do an empathy circle or something? I just appreciate the initiative, behind it. Let's just get out there and send an invite. We didn't hear from Alan Alda, but it's still, still that initiative, just getting out there and doing it was great. So I really appreciate that.
So you're really happy about Lynette's interest in bringing empathy circles into the political realm, and her initiative, her willingness to just take actions to try to get things done. I'm guessing you feel supported by that and you're excited by that.
And also see the possibilities. I want to stay in contact, because I'm trying to get empathy circle. You and I are actually get the Congress to do empathy circles. So, my congressman has said he would do empathy circle. Now we're looking for Republicans, and it's a real chore to connect some. So, would love to talk to you about that if you have any ideas. Tell Lynette.
Yeah, so you are interested in staying in contact with Lynette and interested in collaborating with her around getting empathy circles, political figures to do empathy circles, which is something you've been working on for a while.
Specifically Congress
Okay,
members.
specifically Congress, right.
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I'll go to Claire.
Hi.
Well, I'm very excited by this circle too. I have a really strong interest in the intersection between empathy circles and politics. I've become more involved in the politics of my local community, and I just got appointed to an ad hoc advisory committee on racism and police interactions in Petaluma, in my hometown. And I'm one of the few white people, maybe the only white man, who's on that ad hoc committee. So it's going to be interesting navigating that. And so, yeah, so I'm really connecting with what everyone is saying, and also have a strong interest in staying connected or having more conversation in this area.
So I'm hearing that you're also really energized by this conversation, because you also are fascinated by the intersection of empathy and the policy world, especially given your involvement in local politics, and especially race relations, where you're conscious that there are a lot of different views and you're actually in the minority in your community, or on the group of people within the association. And so trying to find ways to use it to build a dialogue and connect with others working in the space is really important to you.
Yeah, and I just for a year I ran a public listening project called Petaluma Conversations, which was explicitly about bridging social and political divides, and that was an interesting experiment. And I'd like to start it again and figure out how to attract a broader cross section of people to it. And also figure out how it integrates or how it relates to other efforts that people are doing that are similar.
So you used to run a national dialogue called Peddling the Conversation, if I heard that correct.
Yeah, it's not national, it's local.
Local, sorry, the local conversation. And you're looking at how you might revive that and engage new people to do it in different ways, and what that might look like to continue these circles.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I had a couple comments about connecting on Zoom, the comment that you made, Claire, about people being able to connect on Zoom. And I think, people have a bias around what medium is actually connecting. And it's been really fun for me to watch people who think, oh yeah, no, you can't connect over Zoom. It's like it's not like, but it's whatever you are willing to connect over. It's an attitude. If you are willing to open your heart and be intimate, and anything can be connecting. Any medium can be connecting. And I think that's it's been fun to watch people discover that.
So you've been reflecting a lot on, I like this, you've been reflecting a lot on the idea of how you connect with people on Zoom, because you're conscious that some people are a bit cynical about the potential to do that, but you think it's to do with the quality of the connection, what it is you are connecting about, and that it has therefore a lot of opportunity to use the digital space more effectively.
Yeah. And I wanted to make a comment about what Heather said about connecting in relationships. My wife joined me for an empathy circle the other day, and I wound up listening to her in a way about something and reflecting her because we were doing the circle. And she said to me afterwards, I really wish you'd listen to me like that regularly. And I realized, that I trust too quickly that she understands, that she trusts that I understand her. you know, that's what happens. I fall into that rather than doing more reflecting, so that she knows that I do understand her. And so it's interesting how that happens in close relationships.
So also in, not just in the policy space, but in the personal space, you can see the value, as Heather mentioned, of doing more active listening and the empathy circle, because your wife commented on the difference she experienced when she was in the empathy circle with you, and the quality of attentiveness she felt she received in how you were listening and engaging with what she was saying, which is an interesting lesson you found.
Yeah, and it's actually not so much quality of attention. It was more moving from reflecting into advice giving or some other form of commenting, you know, on or responding to what she was saying.
So it's very much about about the ability to listen without giving advice or giving a response, and that in itself was a powerful step for the relationship as well.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Heather, would you listen to me?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, my brain is also full of a lot of things, and I'm not sure I can do all of it justice. But following on from what Lou just said, I think this idea of, and what you also said on relationships, I think this is one thing that's really struck me in recent months. Just because since Christmas, I've been living at home again with my parents and rediscovering family dynamics while waiting for a new job. I'll pause there.
So you, there's a lot swirling in your mind, and related to what we were talking about with relationships. It's been interesting for you to think about that in your relationships with your parents, because you've been living back at home with them while you're waiting for a new job to start. And so it's bringing up those family dynamics.
Yeah, and I find that it's increasingly important to me to listen, because I think, you know, your teenage self, or when you're younger, wants to respond and assert your identity, and seeing the value of listening means you're much more patient and you hold more space and you really listen. But you're also, I'm finding as well, it's getting easier to say, I don't need a response, I don't need a fix, I don't need a solution, I just need listening, which I think is actually really important in a lot of our relationships, that we are able to set, what is it that I need from you and how will that help me? And I think that's actually connected to your point about self-care and self-empathy, something that's really powerful as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've noticed the evolution of your age and your progression in your relationship with empathy and with your parents, that you're able to, in connection to self-care and, you know, self-awareness, able to say what you want, connected to being heard and, you know, what you're looking for in that relationship. You're not looking for a fix often, but to be heard. And you're noticing that change over time from when you were a kid and trying to assert your independence and personality.
Yeah, and I think it has the same in the political space, which goes back to the earlier point about, with all of the discussion we've got right now, and we've got a big royalist versus Republican conversation going on in the UK right now. Actually, I think a lot of people would just like to air their views and feel they're being listened to. And there's this real sense that I get that people feel like they're voicing opinions and they're either rejected or they're humiliated or they're not listened to on all sides. And I think it's that, again, speaks to that power and the importance of just being able to listen and give people the opportunity to do so.
So you're bringing it full circle to your work around, you know, policy and politics, so that on both sides, there are people that want to be heard, but then they're being rejected or, you know, turned away in some way. So they don't have that completion of that experience, but that is something that is shared across the groups and across the different ideas that they're thinking about issues.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to me to this integral human nature that is emotional and that needs to be seen, and it needs to feel that it's heard and that there's a sense of belonging. And I think to me that's the essence of who we are as people, but also what politics is about. And that's the kind of where the shift comes, is making people feel like they're a part of these processes and that they have a voice. And then the follow-up is then how they take part in finding solutions. But actually the first step for me is we've got to start listening and being able to hear.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that it's a core human need to be heard and to connect, and that you boil it down to belonging, the sense of belonging. That's really important as the foundation before you get to doing the work and co-creating solutions and pursuing that change. That people need to first feel connected, they belong, and they can be heard.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you. I couldn't hear your alarm.
I sensed that.
Great. Okay, Lou, will you be my listener?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I wrote some notes while both of you were talking. As it relates to policy and politics, there's a really lovely, I don't know how to describe, a lovely human being, Michael O'Brien. And he talks about when you're designing policy, you're imagining the future for another person. And how can you imagine a future for someone if you don't know them, if you haven't heard them, or if you've actively dehumanized them? So I'll stop right there.
Yeah, so Michael O'Brien is someone that you respect and admire. And in the policy arena, one of the things he says is that when you are formulating policy, you are imagining a future for someone else. And how can you actually do that if you don't know them or you don't really understand them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's such a key piece. He led a course today, a second part of a course, and we were talking about who does the system actually belong to? You know, especially in the US, we talk about democracy, but it's like systems were designed to work for people. They're designed for a specific group of people. And so what does it look like and feel like, and what's that experience to really not have a system that's designed for you, but you're told that it is?
Yeah, and so another thing that he says is that systems are designed for people. That's why they're developed, is to try to serve people. and what kind of a system can you make if you don't really understand the people that you're making it for? And that a source of frustration is people being told this is designed, this is for you, but it's not. It doesn't serve them because it doesn't understand them, something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, imagining the hypocrisy of that statement and knowing how that instantly will erode trust, and knowing that that's based on a legacy of hundreds of years of abuse and exclusion, right? And so, like, what is the role of empathy? How do you avoid and remedy that harm and that hypocrisy when everyone doesn't really, all those in power, what's the incentive to do so?
Yeah, and so the systems that are designed to serve some people but not others, because so those are not understood, that has led to a long history and a legacy of people being left out or people being harmed. And that's why we are where we are today.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Did I miss something there?
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
I think the piece that it also brings to bear is that how do we really and truly honor and recognize the abundance and assets and alternative wealth of these communities that have been sort of pushed out, and seeing, their power to navigate these crazy systems that were not designed really for anyone. I don't know who they're designed for. Like, that's extremely powerful that they have navigation ability to work within these systems. Like, that's, amazing intellect and ability, and we could all learn from that resilience, right? So how is there an entire shift and reframe to honor the assets, ability, and abundance?
Yeah, so you're really recognizing, and you want others to recognize kind of the brilliance of the people, the groups who have been marginalized and who have been left out, and yet have figured out how to survive and how to navigate and how to make things work for them as best they could. That there's brilliance and creativity and wonderful stuff there. And I'd like to see that acknowledged and recognized and learned from. That there's a lot to learn from that also.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So I'll go to Lynette. Yeah, so there's part of my academic study was user interface design of computer systems, and my interest in it came out of watching actually people design systems, computer engineers design systems, and using their own thinking and their own sets of values to design systems for users who are supposed to, use a computer to do a tool. And me seeing right away that, well, the computer engineers, they're using their own thinking and their own understanding and their own what's important to them, and they're not understanding at all the users. So they create systems that they think are beautiful and work great, and then they give them to the users, and the users don't understand them at all because they haven't tried to understand the users and understand their culture and how they think, what their worldview is. I'll stop there.
Okay. So part of your academic learning was coming from the computer science form of building systems, and you're seeing how there's a disconnect between those that design and those that receive the design to use the design. And so you're relating that back to how the empathy can broaden that perspective in understanding somebody's culture and the community, so that you can bring that into play and design better systems.
Yeah, and so that's the whole user-centered design way of working, is that you go interview the users and you understand them, you understand their culture, how they do their work, and then you design the system so that it it makes sense to them. And I think that what Heather was describing about social systems works the same way. People did stuff or developed things or started to do things in a way that made sense to them without taking into account people who are different from them. And so we wound up with systems that serve a certain group, the group that developed them, without much understanding for how those might impact other groups who are different.
So you're seeing a correlation between the two, definitely, between social systems and user systems, and that they're not designed for the community. They're designed for a certain group of people, and they leave others out.
Yeah, and there's a benign form of that, which is that, well, I know what I know, and I know what works for me. What works for me will probably work for others. And so I design a system that doesn't work for people that I don't understand. That's kind of a benign way. But then there's like more worse systems, which is I don't like these people, and I'm going to deliberately design something that cuts them out or that marginalizes them. And, we have both of those in the history of like our country.
So you're seeing there's two different systems, a benign system, one that, is basically designed for those that use it, in the sense of those that have designed it can use it. And then there's the other one where it completely leaves everybody else out, is what I'm hearing. And so that's more malignant and causes more issues.
Right. Yeah, and I was really making a point about intention, that both are harmful, but one is unintentionally so, and the other is more intentionally so. And I think it's interesting that people that work in the social justice area they often say intention doesn't matter, and I think it actually does. And that isn't to say that if you do something that unintentionally harms someone, that doesn't matter. It does matter. Harm, of course, matters. But to say that the person's intention doesn't matter, I don't think that that's true.
So you're seeing that there's definitely two types of intention, one that harms, one that doesn't underlie the harm, but the harm still comes. And you're trying to show them that intention does matter no matter what, whether it brings, an outright visual harm that people can see, or whether it brings an underlying harm, that the intention needs to be, you know, more authentic and more true to the system.
Yeah, I think
make sense?
I was saying more harm matters, regardless of whether it was intended or not.
Okay.
But intention also matters. I think I was trying to say those two things.
Okay, so you're saying that both matter, both harm and intention matters.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, Edwin.
Listening.
Wow, yeah, that brings a whole other dynamic that actually was takes me back to my training of this other piece that I've been training on with trauma informed, where the community needs to be brought into this whole thing to build those systems and be authentic to the community itself.
So this is tying in with your trauma work, where you bring the community in to design the systems together.
Yeah, and building on those community assets and the wealth of those communities and the knowledge of those communities. This is just one piece. It's a huge piece, but empathy is one piece to all of this other, to make sure that those systems work.
So you see that empathy is one piece to bringing people together to create systems, design systems that work for everyone.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you had a bit of an aha moment there.
Well, yeah, it's been an aha moment for a while.
A long time aha moment.
Yeah, it's just mulling it over and finding the different angles to it. Yeah. So I think I need to sit with that and process. So I'm going to say I'm fully heard.
Okay, so you want to sit with this picture of the role of empathy in designing systems. You've been thinking about it, and you're just kind of mulling it over and kind of sitting with that question.
Yes, thank you. I've been fully heard.
Okay, great. Then I'll speak to Claire. Yeah, I made a few notes here. So I was going to touch back to the self-care, which Heather had mentioned. And one thing about the self-care, I guess I want to put out there, is that being heard in an empathy circle is a form of self-care. Sometimes there's sort of this individual self-care. I have to go off by myself, like meditate or something, and that's what self-care is. But I think that being in a community and being heard is like really powerful self-care. Yeah.
So you want to connect to the comments that have been made by Heather and others about self-care, and for you, actually being in an empathy circle is an act of self-care. It doesn't mean necessarily going away on your own and making sure you're okay. It's the very process of having people hear your story and where you're at is in itself a form of care.
Yes, I'm finding a little curiosity. I don't know what Heather thinks about that. How does that land with her? So I'm finding some curiosity pop up.
So you're kind of going to throw the question. You're curious about what Heather will think. So we're throwing the question out to the group for Heather perhaps to pick up in a little while.
And then the other thing is this interesting, the topic kind of went around systems. And people who haven't been brought into a system, I think that's the role of empathy. That empathy is, we're here again, we're modeling mutual empathy, right? Everyone in this system, it gets heard, so more or less pretty equally, and gets heard to their satisfaction. So I see this is a sort of a basic sort of a model. It's like a minimal viable model product, right, of something that works. And so it's like, how do we sort of iterate on this and bring it into other systems? So, yeah.
So you're reflecting as well on what Lou and Annette have said about systems and the role of systems within our lives. And for you, the empathy circles is a form of system where actually everybody has relatively equal time to speak and to be heard. And so then how is that iterated, and how is that then expanded to a much larger group and to have a much wider impact?
Yeah, so you can find any environment where people don't feel heard. It could be kind of a racial issue or, I don't know, whatever issue, and then bring the parties together into an empathy circle so that they can be heard with each other. And the idea for the empathy circle came for me with Occupy Wall Street. We had an encampment in Berkeley, and it was just totally dysfunctional. We did circle practice, and it didn't seem to work very well. So
you would like to look at where people don't really feel heard, where things maybe aren't working as well as they could, and find ways to then bring them together into a circle format. And this stems from your experience with Occupy Wall Street several years ago at Berkeley, where you found that there was this kind of protest demanding new voices are heard and that there are alternative ideas put forward.
Well, we did the big circles of talking sticks, and it was like people didn't feel heard enough. And I thought, well, what if we just divide into really small groups, and everybody in the whole encampment is doing small groups, and then you kind of switch groups so that you sort of maximize the listening. So that was kind of one of the first ideas for the empathy circle approach. Small groups doing mutual listening.
So your inspiration for the empathy circle came from your experience with the Occupy Wall Street protest, because you saw how in large groups with a listening stick, people weren't really able to feel heard or to have their voice shared. So you found by dividing it into smaller groups, it was much more equitably distributed and everybody got a chance to play a part.
Yeah, so I feel fully heard. I got a lot more, but my time is up. I have to darn that clock. Okay, feel fully heard.
Thank you. Lou, I don't think I've asked you yet. Would you be my listener, please?
I'd love to.
So I love the direction of this conversation, and there's so many things that have been raised, and especially this idea of the systems that we're operating in and how we identify their weaknesses and what needs to change. But I also love the point that I think it was Heather made about identifying abundance and assets, that it's not just about failure, that we are able to look simultaneously at strength and weakness and rebuild something.
Yeah, so you're loving this conversation, and you've chosen to focus on the part about systems that we've been talking about, and you really like the idea. So looking at how do we identify the weaknesses in systems and correct them, and you really like the point that Heather made about that it isn't just about finding mistakes or weakness, it's about finding resource assets and resilience.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking similar to what Edwin was just saying, you could hold an empathy circle with with certain groups who feel marginalized and say, what do you have to offer? Or, maybe that there's a phrasing, but, where is the wealth within your community? Like what is being missed by the system or society? And I probably got the language wrong here, but I think there's a kind of a mindset towards it of really finding ways out of the current divisions and that feeling of marginalization on all different sides by posing more positive, not just listening to the problems, but listening to what people can envision as the solutions.
Yeah, so you're trying to imagine what it would be like to use listening circles to have people who've been marginalized in the past talk about not just the pain or the problems that were created by that, but their ideas about the solutions and the resources and the resilience that they could bring to finding solutions.
That was put even better than I could. Yes. I think as well, I did a training last week and it didn't go as well as I planned because the language I was using of empathy did not resonate with people who measured ideas in impact and economics and other measures of success that I didn't have the language of. And I think it was a really interesting point for when we go out and talk about empathy is what is the language to galvanize people who maybe don't think that this is for them?
Yeah, so you're relating to us about a training that you did that didn't go as well as you were hoping, and you think part of the disconnect what is the language that you were using. There was a disconnect in the language. So they were using the language of return on investment or business sort of language, and they weren't resonating really with the empathy kind of language that you were using. And so you think that's an interesting area to explore, is how do we adjust language for the groups that we're talking to?
Without undermining the core message and the core ideas behind it, is how is it framed so that you're getting people to practice empathy? And maybe it is about listening without being put off by their misperceptions of the term.
Yeah, and so how do you communicate to groups in their language without dropping the essence of what you actually are trying to get across to them, which is about the value of listening, the value of connecting, the value of empathy?
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. So I'll go to Heather.
Okay.
I am loving this conversation too. I think we should just form a group and keep meeting and talking. So this area of language is very interesting to me also. And I'm very aware that I adjust my language with the group, whatever group I'm speaking with, to try to frame what I'm saying in a way that they will understand. And I'm a big advocate of what I call plain language, which is if I can't describe something that I'm trying to get across in language that most people would understand, then I don't really understand what I'm trying to say. I'll stop there.
Yeah, you shared that you're also really enjoying this conversation. You want to have it on the regular, and that you find that, to Claire's point, like you are modifying the language that you use based on the group that you're working with, and that an overarching piece to that is just sticking to really plain language that you feel that most people can understand, and that reinforces that you understand what you're trying to say.
Yes. And I do think one of the great values that the NVC lens has given me is that thing of looking for kind of the basic human needs and speaking to those, which to me are underneath all the different kinds of language. So the different kinds of language are always referring to kind of a basic common set of needs. And that helps me find common ground with different groups, or it helps me translate, what I'm trying to say about empathy to a language that I think they will understand without feeling like I'm giving up the important part of it.
Mm-hmm. So with the nonviolent communication work that you do, you really focus on like the core basic human needs, and then connect those needs you find to the language that you're using to make sure that you're not losing anything or giving something up, but you're connecting it to those core needs.
Yeah. Yeah, like business people. So they value productivity, and they value efficiency, and they value evidence. And I would say there's all of those things for empathy and empathy circles can be communicated as contributing to each of those things. So it may take a long time to stop and listen and do empathy, but the question is, what costs do you incur if you don't do that? If you go fast and you don't listen to people and you design a system that doesn't work for them, what are the costs of that? Yeah.
So you're using the example of like business people, they might be concerned about productivity and evidence and efficiency, but how do you meet that concern with language that kind of reframes it in terms of, well, if you don't adopt, empathetic approaches, you could create waste, loss of X, Y, and Z, things that play to the productivity and efficiency in that piece, if they don't take on these new behaviors.
Yes. And I would also say that human beings are wired for empathy. So we love connection and we love empathy. Even people who have forgotten about that or are operating in different modes in different environments, if you help them feel seen and heard and connect, there's a basic resonance that all people have. And they are looking for those things. They may not look for them at work because they think they don't belong there, but they do want them. And if you help them experience that, they will recognize it and they will be attracted to it.
Mm. So you're saying that even if they're in this business environment, they may think like this is not the place for empathy. They're still human and they're still craving it. And if you show them what that is, that experience is like, and those opportunities and what it is to be seen and heard, that, you know, they'll, like any other human, will want more of that because that's part of who we are.
Yes, thank you for hearing me so well.
All right. Okay, Lynette, will you listen to me? So Edwin, you were curious about, the self-care. So for me, how I work is that I get what I call downloads from source. I mean, however you want to frame it. And so I have to have I have to be by myself to get those downloads. I mean, they come other times. But for me, my most important aha moments have come when I was in peaceful meditation and yoga is where and when I wake up, those are kind of when they come.
Okay, so for you, self-care is really defined by those alone moments. When you go reflecting within yourself and you receive that information from source, and that either through meditation or yoga, and then you can really learn to understand you better.
Mm-hmm. And I spend so much time sharing and giving my energy away to others all day that yes, sometimes it's nice to be heard, but sometimes I'm just tired of talking and tired of listening. So I think that is absolutely, I do. The other way that I kind of receive messages is when people say something, I get kind of like a zing or like an internal notification in a way of like, that's a thing. And so I know that I have to pay special attention. But it's like in relationship to how I process that then by myself.
Okay, so you're kind of like, what I'm hearing is a introvert that's forced into an extroversion situation where you have to be on all the time, and that you give your energy away when you're on, and that to other people, and that you do get certain messages within that flag that say, yep, you know, pay attention to me, and that, but then you have to go back to your introverted self and sit down and just decompress and process those messages on your own.
Yeah, and where I've really been paying attention throughout this whole process is when I feel like I should be empathetic, and like I don't know if it's like my lizard brain or my impatient brain goes, nope. Like, it's almost like I realize that empathy is a choice, and sometimes I actively do not choose it. And so I've been spending time pursuing that. One of the times when I say no.
So you're finding that through this processing that you've done, that you have learned that you have times where you really don't want to hear and be empathetic, but that you do, and that you really need to take that time for you to involve that self-care and just be alone so that everything can process better, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, yes. And it's like paying special attention to when I'm resistant to empathy, when I'm resistant to providing it, because there's something going on with that, right? There's something with the dynamic with the person. There's something with the dynamic of my own ability, right? If my well is low or empty, right? I've given so much of my energy. It's hard for me to go there for people. And so it's trying to figure out how do I re-energize? How do I rest so that I can show up and not say no to empathy, but be more attuned and prepared to be empathetic?
So in that, you've understood the growth process of your shadow side, shall we say, to finding that you need to do a bit more work in that area of understanding what it is that says, no, I don't want to listen, and I don't want to empathize and give away that energy, and to work on that piece and really understand it so that you can give it back and be there for people.
And to also acknowledge that I'm probably not alone in that. I think what are the reasons why other people are like, nope. Okay, I'll stop right there.
And so to understand also that there's more of us out there than you realize, that you're not alone, right? And so that you can form a group or an association with others and get more of that empathy and understanding.
Yes, thank you. Fully heard.
I guess it's to Edwin.
Listening.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple different things that have come up for me in this whole conversation. And that is, empathy is really about holding space for others. It's not about fixing or trying to come up with solutions. Really, it's just about holding that space so that others can be fully heard.
Mm-hmm. So your kind of the insight that you have is that empathy is about holding a space for others so they can feel heard and not necessarily fixing them.
Right. As long as, because I think for me anyways, human being, that's my first jump to, oh, you've got a problem? Let's try to fix that. Right. And so it's just taking that slow down and that time to just, no, just listen.
So your natural tendency is if you hear a problem, you want to fix it, and you're saying, oh, no, it's just a matter of listening now. So maybe a deeper awareness of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And kind of go back to that one point I think that Lou was making about finding that language. And I think it was mentioned in the chat earlier about metaphors too. I think metaphors find that language, right, for people and bring that connection in.
Mm-hmm. So building on what Lou said about finding the language of being able to talk to people, that metaphors could be, useful for that, finding that way of describing something or that language.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And I think, yeah, I'm still processing. So I think I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, so you're still processing, still thinking, and I'm going to leave it there for now.
Thank you. Yes, I feel fully heard.
Okay, then I guess I'll choose Heather.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I identify with what you were saying, because a lot of my ideas come when like I'm in bed, right? Just there by myself. The thoughts are going, the brain is processing like early in the morning or, at night. And then suddenly, oh, there's an idea. I sort of feel the idea, right? It's like it's one thing to kind of do something and just have the idea come up in the body, but it's all kind of stressed. It's when I kind of let go and can feel the idea through my whole body that it feels really good and healthy. And that happens a lot by myself too. So that's what kind of reminded me of what you're saying.
Yeah, you're responding to what I was saying about when ideas come, or kind of these downloads, and that for you it's when you're sleeping or like awakening from sleep or resting, and it's not the ideas that come when you're stressed or busy, but it's kind of this full experience of receiving the idea when you are in a restful state.
The other thing that I'd made a note of was the thing about harm, the topic of harm, that there's a lot, of talk about like, oh, you hurt me and this kind of stuff. But I think a large part of the harm is actually people not empathizing. That it's the lack of people empathizing with others that causes them harm. So I just wanted to kind of explore that a little bit.
Yeah, you're bringing up the topic of harm, that people might say like, you hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're saying that some of that harm comes up because people are not showing empathy with each other and really sharing that mutual understanding.
Yeah, it's the person that says that they're harmed is not empathizing with the person that they're accusing of harming them.
So you're clarifying that the person that says that they are harmed, they're not empathizing with the person that they're accusing of causing that harm.
Exactly. So for example, we did some, I think Breitbart, the conservative magazine, wrote about our empathy tent, and they did a fairly nice job of writing about, how we were mediating between the sides. But then on the posts, the comments, it was like 400, comments like, you guys are libtards, you're, your babies, let's get the diapers for you, you snowflakes. The criticism was just huge. It was just like one negative post after the other. And I didn't feel harmed by it. I felt more like, oh, great, you're interested in what we're doing. You have comments. Let's have an empathy circle because I want to listen to you. I want to empathize with you and your criticisms, right? It's like, so anyway, I could have said, oh, I feel all hurt and, I feel so sad. I'm harmed by all your negative, demeaning sort of comments. And it was like, no, I want to empathize with you. Let's have a dialogue,
Yeah, you're sharing an example of how, with your experience, having this article and seeing all these comments, all aimed at like being hurtful.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Feeling wounded, you were like, hey, let's connect, let's talk, because I want to hear about where this is coming from and who you are. Like you wanted to share time with them.
Yeah. And I said, well, there can be three of you in an empathy circle. Let's, I saw it as an opportunity to have an empathy circle, with all these critics. And suddenly they became very quiet and almost like disappeared into the woodwork. Nobody out of these 400 would step up and, engage in a dialogue. And because I was open to listen to them, it's like, they thought, well, I think I better go someplace else. Let me find some other liberals that I could troll who will get kind of triggered by this.
It seems like they perhaps didn't get a satisfactory response where
right.
you weren't upset. You were inviting them, and then not a single person yes, and was willing to engage in conversation so that you could connect with them.
And the exact same thing happened. Okay, I'll pause. I'll stop there. So I feel fully heard.
Nice. I'm sorry you got all those comments. That's awful, but I'm glad you feel okay. Okay. I don't know. I feel like I've said all the things. I'm like willing to pass, or if anyone else has something they want to say. Anyone else want to speak? And I have to jump off. I have to jump off in a couple minutes, Lou, so don't choose me as your listener. And I want to apologize that I do have to jump off, and I'll jump off now before I disrupt anything else, but I have to go lead an event right now. So thank you.
So good to see you.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks it's been great connecting with you. And I wasn't joking about actually wanting to continue this conversation. I would like to do that. I don't know if you all would like to, but
yeah, let's send an email. Let's be in touch.
Like a politics circle. We could have a regular politics circle. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Join us in the next cohort too. They've got cohorts coming up.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So yeah, okay. So I'll speak to Claire. So I had two things I wanted to say. So one, and actually this kind of relates to what Heather said about saying no to empathy sometimes, having that instinct to wanting to say no. And I wanted to share that one of my teachers in this area, who I trust a lot, her name's Kit Miller, taught me that if you're trying to make a connection in a relationship and you try empathy 3 times and it's not producing connection, then try expression, try honesty. And that's been a good practice for me. So, because I tend to think that understanding the other person, trying to understand them, is what will create connection. And if that isn't happening, then it's more like, well, I want you to understand me. Maybe asking you to understand me actually is what will create connection. I'll stop there.
So reflecting on this idea about boundaries to empathy and our resistance to empathy and saying no to it, you're reminded of a lesson that Kit Miller, someone who's been a mentor to you, had taught you, which is try empathy 3 times. And if that doesn't work, you should look to honesty and expression as a means by which to encourage them to understand you and therefore build more connection.
Yeah. then I was feeling a desire to reflect on the training. So returning to thinking about this training and the structure of it, and the way we're, the different elements we have of it, and how we're trying to teach this practice, and whether what we are the way we are doing it is working, or whether there are elements of it that are missing, if there are things that are missing from it. And so I'm curious about that.
So you're also thinking through one of the original questions, which was about the benefits and the experience of the training, and trying to think about what has maybe been missed. You're curious about maybe what could be improved or altered slightly when doing these trainings in future.
Yeah, and specifically, I'm thinking about the idea of introducing challenges for people. So the idea of bringing up the things that happen in empathy circles that disrupt the process or create disconnection. And I know that I have a propensity to try to go too quickly. And I think that's, one of the things that happens when someone's really experiencing something, they tend to introduce stuff too quickly. And so I'm curious about whether that's really serving people, or whether we're really moving to the idea of helping people to experience that too quickly.
So one of the areas you've been thinking of is the role of disruption in the training and the challenges to people, because you're aware that as an experienced trainer, it's something that you feel comfortable introducing, but you realize that it might be too soon for people, or that there might be challenges in doing that at the time that it's done. And so you're curious about how people find that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll end my turn there, because I want to give people a chance to respond.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Lynette to listen as well, so that she can then respond to. I'm happy to take shorter time if you want to half my time, and then we both can. So I'm going to take up this idea as well about the training, because when you're thinking about it, I had two ideas. And the first is encouraging trainers to check in with themselves in the facilitation, that we have a sense of where our mindset and our emotional state is before we facilitate a circle.
Okay, so you're also thinking about the training, and your thought is towards a self check-in with the facilitator themselves, and that before they go into the circle, to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, and training people to do that kind of self-empathy, which I know I've done with empathic intervision and people like that. And my second thing is, I actually love the challenges. I actually think it's really helpful, because it shows you how it could go, and it shows you what different people may bring to the experience and the kind of challenges they face.
Okay, so you're also looking at the challenges as well, and that you're really kind of excited about that, and you enjoyed them, so that you can get a broader perspective of what those challenges are and how they can be looked at and dealt with within the group.
Yeah, and I think I like the energy that we had when the people tested us, that it was actually quite a good lesson in holding your own and having confidence in how you deal with conflict, especially when it's well-intended conflict. It's not malicious necessarily.
So you really enjoyed the energy that came with that, especially around the conflict piece of it, and it kind of challenged you to think about holding your own, and that within that, so that you can gather the group back in and get it back on track.
Yeah, and as a final point, I really love this idea of 3 times empathy and then honesty and expression. I'm going to adopt that. I think that's such a great way to build connection, especially in relationships.
So you're looking at building connection in relationships with the 3 times empathy process.
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our time too. We'll be popping back in. I'm going to have a quick bio break. Be right back.
Okay.
While he's doing that, Lynette, you want to respond to my question? Is that something you're willing to do?
My brain is really full.
Okay.
So I'm just
All
gonna.
right. Okay, fine. That's great. I really appreciate your feedback, Claire.
No, you're welcome. I think it's been so fun, the whole process. And it's such a hard
Well,
thing
and
to do.
yeah, and one of the pieces of guidance I give to the trainers is in when we get to the challenges section is, you don't want to overwhelm people. So you need to be very cautious, not sensitive or aware in how you like the level of challenge you're offering and whether someone's really ready for it or not. Because what you don't want to do is overwhelm someone, because then that creates the opposite effect. Rather than confidence, you wind up kind of making them afraid of what might happen.
Yeah, and we were definitely asked the level of challenge we wanted.
Do we have everyone back?
I think we do.
Let's see, Tim.
Yes, Edwin stepped away for a second, but that doesn't mean we can't begin. He's not running. Oh, he's back anyway.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. We will now do a few rounds of questions. And the first one I'll pose, and we'll take, again, probably about 30 seconds or to go each take a turn here. And then Bill is going to ask another round of questions after this. So the first one we are interested in hearing about is what did you like about the training? What were the benefits to you? And I'll start out, if I might, with Rasha.
Thank you. So I love the structure and how organized the training is. I also absolutely adore the empathy buddy system, which builds a lot of connection among the members. It's something else that I must mention. And yeah, these are two things that come up to my mind right now. And because I'm kind of not feeling well and I'll leave immediately after. So I'd just like to also maybe put in one or two suggestions. So one thing that I did suggest is possibly introducing, really diverse topics, because very often I see that, there's repetition, like, we all say the same things again and again, or, so I feel topics that people are really passionate about, if that's something that's introduced as maybe keep, a theme, overall theme, and then, for a cohort in each session has like some, specific topic that is very current, that is very, what do you say, something that encourages a lot of debate or discussion, I feel would be a good value add. Other than that, everything about this, Empathy Circle has been great, and I'm so glad that I got to meet all of you. So I'd just like to wind up saying that I'm deeply grateful to all of you for holding space for me when I really, really needed it. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rasha, for the feedback and for
And with
being
that, I'd
with
like to leave. So I hope I'll be joining the upcoming cohorts. So I hope to see you all there.
Bye, Rasha.
Bye, Rasha.
Thank you so
Get better
much.
soon. Bye.
Okay, so now we'll move to Amy. Are you with us, Amy? I don't see your video, but if you're up for sharing. I'll come back around to you, Amy. Anatoly, what did you like about the training?
I really like the body calls. I really like the whole organization, like production of it. The trainers like Timothy's facilitating like the whole thing in the big group. I and all the trainers. Using empathy circles for the training itself is really also really great. The practicing with challenges, really great. Variety of cohorts, also like different days and times is important for me, maybe because also like different time zones. So a chance to pick something that works well for me.
Super. Thank you, Anatoly. And Anish?
I always enjoy the sense of community and belonging that I feel when I come to the cohorts and the training. So it's joy to be back, and especially being accepted in the middle of a cohort and being accepted and being included. Yeah, thank you so much. A lot of gratitude.
Thank you, Anish. And Herbert? You're on.
My microphone. Okay. Okay, what I appreciate is that the participants were from all over the world and cultures, and this is amazing. Yeah, so that's why I changed my name in Earthling. I'm from planet Earth, you know. All the rest doesn't matter. So second, again, I saw that listening can be learned, and that's good news. Yeah. And the third thing is big thanks to Edwin. His incredible commitment since now, I would say 10 years or so. No, 3 times big thanks. That's from my side.
Thank you, Herbert. And Linda?
I've really appreciated, you know, the variety of different, different backgrounds, different perspectives, and different conversations that I've had during the training, and I've really appreciated the opportunity to particularly understand that it's not about being perfect. It's about having an intention to create this ripple of empathy across the world. So it's been about realizing the importance of that. All the amazing organization and facilitation blows my mind. Thank you.
Awesome, Linda. Thank you. And Ibtisam.
God, this is such a challenge. But what I've most enjoyed is the challenges, because I've really been able to exercise my muscles of being really bad. And I've so enjoyed that. It felt really freeing and fun. And I think it's been said, like, you know, it's not, the skills and the structure is so important, but I keep coming back to this thing of, you know, this sort of energetic feeling of, you know, when you have a big heart and you're just willing and open, somehow magic does occur. And I'm like, you know, I know I said things like the first training which I did was like, I said, I think I began with something like marshmallows, that everyone's a marshmallow at the end of the day. And this time, like, I had this image of Edwin sort of, you know, blazing back, like, I've made my millions, now I'll just see it at work. And these sort of, you know, the songs that keep coming in my head. And I'm just like, for the first time, I'm realizing this is going to be a good ride. This is going to be fun. I'm really excited. And remembering to take baby steps so that I don't fall flat on my face, being giddy with enthusiasm as well. So it's been really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Renee.
So I've just, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, good. The microphone's working now. Okay, it wasn't working before. Okay. So I've really enjoyed the structure. It's been very structured, and that is, I really enjoy that. So I knew what to expect. I love the be able to practice in the breakout rooms. I loved meeting with the empathy buddies, just meeting people who are different than myself from different places in the world, bringing everything smaller, not that people are so far away. We're all really very close, and we're all very similar in a lot of ways. Yeah, I've learned a lot as a facilitator, and a lot was packed in for 5 weeks. It went by very quickly. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And Celine.
Whatever it is that I like about it keeps me coming back. I can't even remember when I started, I think 4, 5, 6 months ago. And I love the structure. I love that, for example, it's okay, this is how you do it. All right, now do it. Instead of this is how you do it, read chapter 1 through 5, then there'll be a test, and then maybe you'll get a chance to actually do the thing. So very, makes it very alive for me. And I feel safe with the support from the trainers and the structure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elsa Marie. You're in share.
I found that the structure and the process very clear, and it helps because there's no room for deviation. I enjoyed the breakout sessions and the challenges. We learned a lot through those, and I also enjoyed the buddy calls. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Graham.
So I first started or made my first contact back in November last year. So what are we now? Kind of 3 to 4 months in. And I've really benefited because the structure of the empathy circles and the way the content is run has enabled me to feel safe and develop in a safe environment. And that is, for me, really, really essential. And I take a thread from what Ibtisam said, where she says, I'm enjoying the ride and I plan on continuing with the ride. And there are lots of things I'd like to talk to Edwin about, but slowly, and but I will continue participating in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. And Claire?
Hi, I feel like a lot of it has already been said. I've really, really enjoyed this process. And I think among the many things I've loved is that at a time where I've spent the last 3 months in lockdown, I feel that I have traveled internationally and made all these connections, which I think is just such a wonderful, it's taught me the value of Zoom. And also, again, the fact that you can listen to people no matter where they are. And I think the way you've organized the trainings, the way you've guided us through them and revealed their power and practice at the same time by encouraging us to take part in circles while learning how to do them is actually very effective. And it's forced me to confront my resistance to things like not asking follow-up questions and wanting to have big conversations. And I think that's such a helpful tool for the training. So thank you to all of you who've been involved as facilitators and training us. It's been a really rewarding process, and to everyone I've met, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And Lynette?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate the safe space. The gathering of like-minded people too. I'm coming together within that safe space to have those discussions and to understand each other it's awesome. I've really enjoyed the empathy buddies too, because I've made so many good connections, and collaborations on projects and other things too. It's just been amazing, and and the fact that you guys allow the meeting where you're at with people. And so you can jump in at any time, you can participate, you can, if you have to leave or whatever, do something else, or you get kicked off and can't come back on, you can still come to the next one kind of thing. And that's also been an extreme value to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. And let's see, Amy, what did you enjoy about the training?
I liked the fact that I am engaging with so many people from across the world. I shared in my small group that, a lot of, as I was writing my book, there's a lot of navel gazing, like looking downward, being introspective, and then looking at research. But research and academia and everything like that is different than this space that you're creating here. And I wanted to engage in community with other people who also believe in empathy. So I believe in that. I also chose to wear this shirt today. Somebody was asking me about this 1776, Graham. You asked me, like, what does that mean? That's the Day of Independence, when the Declaration of Independence was signed in the US. But on the bottom, you probably can't read this here. It says, where revolutions begin. And I wear this shirt. This is actually a startup accelerator in the DC area where I'm from. Was highly involved with it years ago, but it's essentially a place where revolutions begin. And I think this kind of space provided a place where a revolution on empathy can begin. So that's why I chose to wear this today. So here's to that.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. And now I'll just give the opportunity for any trainers to share something that they would like to about the benefits of the training before I pass it to Bill for the next round.
I'll do a quick, for me, it's the shared purpose. It's just to be with a whole group of people who have this shared purpose of creating more empathy in the world is just feels really great. And the sort of the community aspect. So, and building the friendships and all the relationships is just very meaningful. And I'm noticing how it helps sort of ground me, brings me more into my core, like sort of my awareness, my consciousness is more in this core versus, just being kind of up in my head. So that's it. So thank you everyone for taking part.
Lou?
Yeah, I'm just filled with gratitude. I feel so much gratitude. I'm so grateful for all of you being here and giving your time and attention to this, and your interest in learning about this, and your interest in building a world where people respond to each other with a desire to understand and be understood. And it contributes to my hope, to my sense of hope, and it kind of nourishes my soul because I've been at this for a very long time, and I guess it helps me feel like I have some belonging and some, like I'm not alone. So I'm just so grateful for all of you, and so I want you to know that.
Great, thanks. Timothy?
I am struck, and as I calm myself and relax and look at each of your faces and consider you as fellow beings, and I start opening my mind to all of the other beings that you touch and who lean on you and who look to you for encouragement and support and kindness and empathy. And I'm struck with how many other beings each of you actually represent. And I'm seeing this really wide web of networks all being affected by our consciousness here and what we create here, being warmed or reassured or just heard or just given a little bit of hope or encouragement. That's pretty amazing to consider. So your presence and that presence of the lineages and cultures and backgrounds and the people that you're part of. So I'm inspired by that. Thanks.
Thanks, Timothy. Michelle?
Oh, thanks, Bill. Like yeah, on the circle we just had, like I was kind of doing a harvesting role as part of being co-facilitator, and it was really the harvest was a lot of what's being expressed was that like the structure is just like it creates safety and it has this kind of reliability. It's always going to be the same, so people can really feel like they belong and the value of the buddy calls. But what it really came through the strongest for me was that like how profound that like it's been distilled down like to this like the profoundness of just being heard. And what came up for me was that like it's such a big and complex world and so many things happening and there's so many crises and like are we already in this like kind of dystopia and like is it too late? There's just so much, and it's like it can seem so complex and overwhelming, and it's like somehow like in this structure that seems like really simple, that it's being distilled down into the secret of what's needed in life, being that the essence of it is empathy. And it just like it's just something I'm really grateful for. Like like I'm really, really cool that I find it really, really cool that this is something that has came into my life at the moment anyway, that I'm like, I'm moved by it. That's like, this is what I want to focus my time and energy on is bringing more of it into my life, but really also like surrounding myself with the kind of people that's what they want, like that's what they believe in, that's what they're focused on. Because I think anyone that is grounded in empathy and that's their core value, it's like they're not going to be assholes. Like, so I'm really grateful.
Thanks, Michelle. Erin?
Yeah, really letting that sink in. Everything that Michelle said is really resonating with me. And I think an essence of it is that what we're learning is, how to facilitate empathy circles, and the structure of the training also promotes a culture of empathy. So I think there was care put together to make sure that happens. So I think that's really important and something that I really appreciate.
Okay. And one of the things, there's several, but I heard a lot about people's inner critic and self-judgment. And I just it's usually when that inner critic is developed, you're very young and very undefended. And so even though as an adult, you might say, oh, I don't need to react to that. Emotionally underneath, you are reacting to it. So one rule of thumb is listen to your inner critic and then tell it to calm down. Because it's probably not as bad what you heard when you were 2 and 3 and what your world then and which went unreflected upon for these years, is quite not the same as it is now. So I encourage you all to listen to your inner critic, but don't take it too seriously. And so that's my words. And then we'll go on. We have a second question here. And so we've talked about the training, and this is more of an outward-looking question.
Bill,
Yeah?
I just wanted to catch you there before you asked that question. In the chat, Ibtisam was requesting 30 seconds to speak. Maybe now or whenever you like.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Ibtisam, do you feel this is a good time, or you would like to wait a little bit?
I just want to say, because I think it's this thing which Edwin had shared a post, and it's been so meaningful, and we've been talking about empathy, and I think this is really kind of very important, and I just think it is complex, it's demanding, strong yet gentle, and just a way of being, and I just think that's, oh, and that's perfect. See, music's happening, and we can just not take it so seriously, whatever, it's like, shit happens, man. The music started playing just when I was finishing. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Okay. And so I think I got the gist, but is there some... All right.
Seriously, I can't find my mouse. Please mute me.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So I will assume that Ibtisam later on, if you need to clarify anything, we'll try to give you some time. And so essentially this outward, how will you be applying empathy circles going forward? And will you be taking the training again? And I'll just go around my screen here. And Lynette, luck of the draw, you're right there. I didn't mean to scare you.
That's okay. I just wasn't anticipating being first, but that's okay. I will continue that action that I've kind of started building, and going forward with still connecting with the city council, and they want me to do a little presentation and stuff when I get the other pieces of my trauma stuff in place. So I'll be doing that and introducing it there more. As well as introducing it with the restorative justice piece that we're working on too with our community, and bringing that into the conversation, and hopefully having a lot more people join the cohorts, or have, or me leading a cohort in that sense as well. And so, yes, I will be coming back for more.
Great. Great to have you. Thanks, Lynette.
Thanks.
Claire?
Hi. So I am going to be looking at how I can apply these in the kind of environments that I'm working with, and some of the trainings that I'm developing, which I'm really looking forward to. Because of the time difference, it's going to be a little bit hard to join the cohort for the time being, because I'm living with family, so it cuts across dinner time. So I'm hoping to rejoin when I've got a little bit more autonomy again later this year. But I'm really going to be looking at how to use it to have some of the political conversations that I think need to be had with policy circles.
Great, thanks, Claire, and you're welcome at any time. Graham.
So there are a couple of things happening. My constraints or inhibitions in terms of setting up empathy circles has kind of, I've got over it, put it that way, to some degree. I just need a little bit more time. The other one is that I'm working in a little four-man team in the local accelerator, and I'm wanting to bring, let's just call them empathic processes, into our business meetings. And so there's a second one. And the other one is that I want to talk to Edwin over the next month or so about what way I could conceivably be gainfully engaged in his project.
Great.
So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Elsa Marie?
So I work on sexual and gender-based violence, and we have safe circles, which we have introduced the empathy part into it. And we see, at least I see, a lot of my team members joining these trainings. Of course, if it's at 11 in the night, they won't be able to do it, but I noticed that there's a change in timing. So I've highly encouraged them to get themselves trained, and we will be using a lot of these methods and circles in our own work with survivors. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Celine?
Yes, I'm continuing, and I want to have enough experience under my belt before I approach city officials because I would like to start there with offering empathy circles. But I want, and also I have a monthly circle and other possibilities to keep me going, keep me learning. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Celine. Renee?
Hi, thank you. I look forward to continuing to integrate it in the empathy circle that I run, a weekly embodiment empathy circle online, to integrate it there and in practice groups that I run. And I'm beginning the conversation of bringing empathy cafes, empathy circles to my community, in perhaps a cafe where they employ differently abled young people, and that might be a good place, or pitching a tent at the farmers market. And I'll be having a meeting, God willing. We will be, I work with a group, we go into the federal detention center and prisons in our area, and God willing, soon they'll allow us to come back, and we're having a staff meeting at the end of this month. And I want to bring up the circles and talk about introducing that into our local prison and federal detention center programs.
Thanks, Renee. Ibtisam? You're muted still? Are you?
It's my little mouse that's playing tricks on me.
All right.
So I am blank, and that's okay.
That's okay. You're absolutely right. It's okay.
And that alarm has completely done me, because that was my medication alarm, and I'm just like, oh, I've forgotten my medication. And it's just a simple medication. It's kind of crazy what's happening right now. And I'm reflecting on the group process, what happened in our tiny group. I'm like, wow, must be some energy of being silly here and what's happening. But I just want to say I love you guys, and it's all okay. My next steps are that I think I'm going to contact everyone and say, just jump into one of my very crazy, wild, wacky, intimate group settings. You're going to so love it. And if you don't come on it, be your loss, not mine. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you. Linda?
Yeah, I'm going to be definitely carrying on with the week. Well, it's weekly at the moment. I might have to put it fortnightly. The community circle that I've been running, because there's been a lot of interest. It's not been huge, but there's been a lot of interest. So I'd like to keep it going and see if I can grow it and get some people who've been attending so far to come on to this training. So they can facilitate circles as well. And I'm going to join Cohort 13, which is an Extinction Rebellion cohort, and kind of go through this this process again there and see where that goes. And I'm also going to be I've committed to once a month running an empathy circle within our regional Extinction Rebellion group. So yeah, that's what I'm committing to at the moment. Feels like quite a lot, but I'm quite excited about it. So looking forward to it, and really enjoyed this. Enjoyed being with you all here. I'm gonna miss being in this cohort. I think anybody who's moving forward with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And Herbie, an Earthling, just want to say that the Empathy Circle welcomes extraterrestrials as well. We don't discriminate, but so please go ahead, Herbie.
First of all, thank you for that invitation. To be honest, I don't have something to add in the moment.
Okay.
What I wanted to express, I have already expressed or have heard it already. So I would give the fire to the next person.
Okay, thanks a lot. Anatoly.
What I would really like to do is continue having physical circles, especially go to communities where people live together, work together, share space together, and see how empathy circles help them work better together, understand each other, listen to each other, and spread this further. I'd really like to start a process locally where people start having like an interest in being facilitators and figure out how I can help people become facilitators, bringing them here or being in more cohorts here and figuring out like how I can like help training trainers and so on. So I'm curious, like, I don't know when I'm going to be here next, not immediately, but at some point I will do another round of this training. So I want to get like a better picture of like what's expected of me, you know, like, okay, I figured out how to be a facilitator, but I want to think about like how to help more people do this, because lack of facilitators really makes it difficult to have more circles.
Great, and you're doing it by just attending the training, so you're taking steps in that direction, and that's the way it's designed. And Amy.
Yeah, empathy circles. I can see so many applications of it in so many different aspects of my world. In the work that I do, so many people, I've been giving them every week having empathy circles with people, and they just love having that. And also just kind of like there's a couple other groups that I've talked to that are doing empathy like circles, simple like circles like this, like Zendesk has their own version of empathy circles. And how do you integrate that into companies and organizations to make sure that this is something that's repeatable, that allows you to create psychological safety in the organization? So I'm curious about that, and I'm going to dive deeper into it.
Great, well, it's great. Look forward to hearing about it, Amy. So I want to respect our time. We're just about at we have about 3 minutes. Just to let you know that I've put the feedback form is in the chat for the final feedback form, and I'll turn it over to Edwin to wrap us up.
Okay, great. And any other final trainer comments? So there'll be a final email, and there'll be a link to cohort 9B, which is the next one that starts next week. We have 6 spaces available still, if anyone wants to take part or invite friends, you know, kind of spread the word. We will send out a final empathy buddy list too, if you want to kind of check in with others. And then there's that feedback form that Bill just filled out. That'll all be in the email, or you can kind of click on that and get started, you know, on that right after this call. So I want to thank everyone. Is there anything else, Lou? Or
yeah, I just want to say, so ongoing facilitator support is something that we are providing on alternate Fridays from 12:30 Pacific time to 2:30 Pacific time. So we recognize that, you know, being a facilitator, we do this training, but we also wanted to provide some sort of mechanism of ongoing support. And so we have this Friday facilitator support group every other Friday, and the next meeting would be on the 19th. And I'm running that. And so I just want to remind people of that and invite you to come to it.
Yes, and I want to thank our trainers for kind of all the work that they've done on this, setting this up and kind of hosting this, as well as the trainees. We've been meeting half an hour early, and we stay after to kind of set this up, and so thank you for all of your hard work. And I guess we'll see you next time. This is our final jazz hands until hopefully next week, or whatever cohort you want to join. We'll be having multiple cohorts. So bye for now.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks.
Good luck
everybody.
to you.
Yeah.
Thanks and blessings, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye to everybody.
Hi, Herbert.
Bye.
Till we meet
Herbert.
again.
Oh, bye.